It's time for a Big Ten Week 7 recap.
College football is back, and we're back on the big mountain.
Hey, it's great to have you back on the mountain. I am JY, and this is my good friend Steve, and we are going to recap Week 7 in the Big Ten, and it was a crazy week in the Big Ten. I'm anxious to hear what you have to say. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, just absolutely crazy week in the Big Ten. Just bonkers things happening in every game. I went 0-4 on my picks, had the absolute worst betting week I've ever had in my life, and an absolute worst week of picking the Big Ten. I'm not going to go through all of these games, partly because some of the games made me want to shoot myself watching them, so I don't want to talk about them too much more. But I do want to talk about teams like Wisconsin, Iowa, Purdue, and even Northwestern.
Yeah.
Okay, doing things they have not been able to do all year. We started off on Friday with Northwestern just going bonkers and kicking Maryland's butt. Yep. Then we have Wisconsin traveling to Rutgers. Rutgers has been just a really solid team all year, and Wisconsin really had, we talked about them being inconsistent. Well, they were kind of consistently bad until last week against Purdue, right? Who was the Big Ten's worst team. They finally got some stuff going against Purdue. Well, they came in against Rutgers and just kicked their ass from the beginning. And the one thing, if you're a Rutgers team, what they can't do is play from behind, and that's what happened. Yep. Rutgers is a team, they run the ball, they get a lead, and then they just suck the air out of the ball. Well, Wisconsin just came in, punched them right in the mouth, and said, no, this is our football, this is our lead. We're coming in, and we're making your house our house. Yep. And just jumped all over them. Wisconsin jumping over Rutgers, so that game was crazy. Iowa, we've talked about Iowa not being able to score points, right? Not really having any quarterback play. Johnson, their running back, has been good all year, but we talked about their offense being so one-dimensional and still not scoring a lot more points in the last year. Well, they come in, Washington comes in, a Washington team who has been pretty good this year, has been better than we expected, and Iowa just demolishes them on both sides of the ball and scores. I think they end up scoring 44 points against Washington, and I mean, just crazy, just looking like a completely different team than they have all season. Yep. And then I'm gonna end with Purdue at Illinois. Yeah, Illinois having a great season. They went and won at Nebraska. Their only loss is to a top 5 Penn State team in Happy Valley. And Purdue has just been pitiful all year. Has not been able to do anything. Well, Illinois got the lead. Purdue came back, sent this game. I think to overtime. I think it was. They went for 2. Didn't get it, so they lose by 2 points. Purdue played out of their mind, fantastic, way better. I think they scored more points this game than they did the whole rest of the season combined. It was absolutely amazing. I think this game ended like 51-49 or something like that. So Purdue just looked totally different than they had all year. So to me, that was really the story this week of those teams just doing things that they have not been able to do all season, but they came in and looked like professional teams this week.
Well, I knew going into that Illinois game, I think the other 3 games had already ended, or we kind of knew you weren't going to hit your picks. And I'm like, at the half, I'm going, oh, Illinois, it was, I think they were up by a touchdown or maybe 10 or something.
One point they were up 17.
Okay, 17, I don't know.
22.
And I'm like, it's there for them. They got the second half to really pour it on. And then next thing I look, I'm go, they might actually lose this game.
Purdue just went bananas.
They went bananas in the second half. And I will say the Rutgers game, I saw some of that game. They had no running game. Is it Monungai?
Yeah.
He didn't have much room to run anywhere. Yeah. And I will say they weren't catching anything. Like Callie McManus, and it gets back to your point about them not being a comeback team. Yes. They're a control team. Yes. Well, they couldn't control. Right. Callie McManus is not going to push the ball down the field. But even when he was throwing the ball, none of his receivers were catching his balls, and it wasn't his throws. It was like he was the only dude on the field that was like remotely playing good football. Yeah. Monungai couldn't get anything done. The receivers weren't catching jack crap, and I'm like, well, they ain't coming back because there's no offense here for them.
Their offense could do nothing. And it was awful. It stayed like that the whole game. And I would say Callie McManus didn't have a great game, but you're right. When he did hit his receivers, they didn't catch it.
They didn't catch anything.
Yeah.
So, when that game got out of reach, I went, I don't need to watch this anymore.
There was one other game that did go kind of like I thought. Minnesota at UCLA. Yeah. I think Minnie. I only hit 2 of my bets this week. So when this was one, I think Minnie ended up winning by 4. They've looked, last 2 or 3 weeks, they've looked sharp. They beat USC. They've been on a little roll here, and this was a good win for them. But what I really want to talk about, the 2 big games of the week, and 2 of the bigger games in the country. Ohio State traveling to Oregon, playing at Autzen Stadium is the first one. I'm going to talk about that now. Ended 32-31. This game was just back and forth. This was like a heavyweight prize fight. Just 2 teams at the top of their game, going back and forth. And really, in that first drive, Ohio State should have been an interception, but it wasn't even reviewed. It wasn't looked at. Ohio State goes down and scores a touchdown, and you're thinking, oh, crap, this is, uh-oh for Oregon. This could get ugly early. They had a call that went against them. But the crowd at Autzen Stadium was just amazing. I was following on Twitter. There were Ohio State fans they're like, oh, my gosh, this is the loudest place I've ever been.
Yeah.
Just the crowd there was amazing, and every time that Ohio State had a haymaker, threw a haymaker, Oregon came back with their own haymaker, just back and forth. We get down to the end of the game. Oregon had taken a couple leads there towards the end, so they were leading 32-31. Ohio State had a chance. They were driving. Will Howard, had the ball, and he had a good game.
Yeah.
One thing, the Ohio State they've got 4 or 5 NFL receivers there. And he had open receivers whenever he wanted them, and he was hitting those open receivers, which is great. That's what you bring in a guy to Ohio State to do. But the last drive, they had a chance to go down, make a potential game-winning field goal.
Right.
The clock management was absolutely awful, and you have a 5th or 6th year quarterback. You have an experienced, seasoned coach in Ryan Day. You would think that they could manage. It was some of the worst clock management I've ever seen. We get down, they have like 5 or 6 seconds to go. They wanted one quick pass to set up a field goal. Instead, Will Howard runs. He just ran too far. We saw Dak Prescott do this in the NFL a few years back. Yeah. He just ran too damn far, and he ran the clock out, goes down, tries to take a timeout, but there was no time on the clock.
Right.
So it ends up with Oregon winning 32-31. Great victory for them at home. Great, fantastic game. I have a feeling we may see a rematch, either potentially in the Big Ten championship game or maybe in the playoffs. But this game lived up to its billing. And I'll tell you what, Oregon, we had a lot of talk about these 4 new teams coming to play in the Big Ten. Yeah. And, okay, hey, can you guys come in? We said the whole time we thought Oregon was the one that was built the best for it.
Correct.
They showed that. Dan Lanning, the way he's built this roster and the way he has this team playing, they just matched Ohio State stride for stride, stroke for stroke, punch for punch the whole time. And I tell you what, any Big Ten team that has to go into Autzen Stadium and win a game, it's not going to be an easy trip.
Yeah, I don't have any comments because I didn't get to watch this game, and I was getting texts from people. But I was watching my Mountain West games. Yeah. So I didn't see this game. And, it is what it is. I was happy to watch my Mountain West games, but I could tell by the text I was getting this was a wing-dinger.
And I think, I'm guessing you maybe are a little bit surprised because
I was a little bit surprised.
Saying you were just going to continue to ride with Ohio State, which I totally get. Yeah. But yeah, Oregon was able to pull it off. So great win for them.
And this was one of them you got right because you took Oregon getting points and they didn't need the points.
Exactly. Yeah. It went, really, honestly, and Vegas had the game right. I think everybody kind of knew what they were getting in this game. Yeah. Just 2 great heavyweight fighters. And honestly, if they played on a neutral field, Ohio State may win 7 or 8 out of the 10. But going into Autzen Stadium with that noise, the crowd there, it was awesome. It was pretty great.
Cool. Awesome.
And for me, it was great that I could watch this great football game already knowing that my Penn State Nittany Lions had gotten a great win on the road. So that's what I'm going to talk about next.
One of only, I believe, 3 teams that I saw today in this new Big Ten that has had to go across country
multiple times
and win a game. It has not. I think it's like
they're 3-10.
Yeah, 3. I was going to say that 3-10. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, so yes, you're right. And so they went into the LA Coliseum, beat USC 33-30. Again, just another fantastic game. The stadium there, the crowd, it was electric. Now, I will say the crowd was probably about 45% Penn State fans. Wow. So still the stadium just awesome, just great atmosphere. But they don't have that. They don't have what Oregon has going in Autzen Stadium, at least right now. But still, just an iconic venue. They lit the Olympic flame at the beginning of the 4th quarter. It was so awesome. But Penn State goes in, have a great drive in the first quarter, go down, but end up settling for a field goal. and then USC drives right down the field the other way, scores a touchdown, and USC got out ahead of Penn State in the first half.
Yep.
I think there was a 14-point lead at half. And there was a couple, okay, we're going to trade scores. And USC had multiple leads in the second half, but Penn State comes all the way back, led really by two guys, Drew Aller and Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren, to me, had the best game that I've ever seen a tight end play. I'm not just even saying this year, best tight end in the country this year by far, but the best game that I've ever seen a tight end play in college football. Just amazing. He ran for a first down. He threw a first down pass. He had a play, which I've never seen in my life. I think I sent it to you, where he lines up at center in this weird formation, snaps the ball, goes down and catches a 50-yard touchdown pass after a double pass to Drew Aller, which was just amazing. And every time Drew Aller needed a throw, needed to make a play, needed to keep a drive going throughout most of the game, Tyler Warren was there. I didn't write down his stat line, but he ended up, I think, 17 catches, over 200 yards, couple touchdowns. It was just, he was the player of the game. The entire offense ran through him. But I got to give major props to Drew Aller. So he came into this game with only, I think, 3 career interceptions and threw 3 interceptions in this game.
Yeah.
Now, one of them was a Hail Mary, at the end. It is what it is. But he threw 2 bad interceptions, not great interceptions. One was he threw into traffic and it got deflected. The other one, he didn't see a guy underneath and threw an interception, which could have been crippling to Penn State in such a close game.
Yeah.
But every time USC had the lead, every time Penn State had to get back in it, he came out, he led a drive down the field, another scoring drive to keep them in the game, keep them tied. Just over and over again. The kid kind of grew up into a man yesterday.
Yeah.
It was pretty awesome to watch. And even in the fourth quarter, I love when coaches go for it on fourth down.
Yeah.
So the Penn State needed a tying scoring drive in the fourth quarter. They get the ball, I think, with about 5 minutes to go. They drive down. They had 2 fourth downs, a 4th and 7, a 4th and 10.
Wow.
Both times the coaches had confidence in Drew Aller to make a play. He throws a first down completion both times. Julian Fleming, actually, because by that point, USC had finally figured out, hey, we need to cover Tyler Warren. And they were actually moving a safety and a defensive back. I think a corner sometimes and a safety sometimes, instead of just trying to cover him with a defensive lineman or linebacker.
Right.
So he hits Julian Fleming, the transfer, for 2 first down passes, leads them down for a tying touchdown drive. They go into overtime. USC, who has a great kicker, the Penn State defense really turned it up in the second half and in overtime. They knock USC back. So USC ends up having a longer field goal. They miss it, and Penn State, they move the ball forward. Their redshirt freshman walk-on kicks a game-winning field goal in LA Coliseum to win the game. James Franklin comes out. Everyone's screaming. They want to interview James Franklin. And James Franklin was breaking up with emotion, was like, you need to talk to this kid. The walk-on kicker, redshirt freshman. Just so fantastic game. Great experience for the team. Great win. They go to 6-0. They're going into their bye week. All their goals are in front of them. For me as a Penn State fan, it was a great experience. USC still a good team. They're at 3-3. Lincoln Riley's getting a lot of heat. They could potentially. I think they came into this game. They knew they had to knock off Penn State to stay in the college football playoff run, and they gave Penn State everything that they could give, and it just came up just slightly short. Miller Moss had a good game. So overall, just a great win for Penn State. Very good game, good win on the road. And now Penn State 6-0. They've got wins at West Virginia, at USC. There's not a lot of teams that have wins like that on the road. So good for them. They keep climbing those rankings. And that's pretty much it. So a lot of crazy bonkers games that made no sense.
Yeah.
And then 2 absolute awesome heavyweight fights. We had kind of the UFC card when you have the double main event.
Yes.
That's what we had in the Big Ten, and it was just a lot of fun watching those 2 games.
Yeah, 2 huge games in the Big Ten. Both games I didn't get to see, but I'm glad you could summarize them for us.
Yeah.
So, hey, with that, just as a reminder, we do live pick episodes every Wednesday, 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific, and I can guarantee you Steve will not be over in week 8.
Never again.
It never will happen again. So with that, hey, we thank you guys for watching. Give this one a like and subscribe if you like our content. We'll see you guys next time on the Big Mountain.